Hey yo, I got the good stuff. This is what it'll do to you.
Okay, actually though, it'll be more like this. So after reading through the comments on my last video, I not only think that underwater combat would work really well in wilds, I think there's already a mechanic in the game that solves the issue of controlling our hunters in the water. Focus mode. This is probably a long shot, and you can call me crazy, but before there's an avalanche in the comments, here's an idea that I think most of us can agree on. I want Monster Hunter to start feeling like Monster Hunter. Once again, monsters need to be made intimidating, and we need more friction added back in with less streamlining. I'm not advocating to have janky old world controls again. I'm simply talking about Monster Hunter not holding your hand, and these monsters feeling like an actual threat. Last I checked, Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate is a great snapshot of the series before mounting, verticality, slingers, and so on. Is it perfect? No, of course it's not, but it is hard to deny the game's spirit and Monster Hunter feel. And through adding underwater combat fully, I think Capcom can take some of that spirit and inject it back into Monster Hunter Wilds. Oh, and also, while writing this script, one of the official Capcom Twitter accounts posted this with an obvious footprint of Namiel. I mean, either this is poorly timed or a literal hint to the expansion. So, real quick, here are 4 reasons why I think underwater could work well in Wilds. I do think it's pretty common knowledge that the underwater section of the Lagiacrus fight was Capcom testing those waters with us players, and I've mentioned this before, but I think that part of the fight is well done. I will say though, that if Capcom does add more underwater sections or monsters into the game this way, they need to fully commit. I'd rather actual underwater combat with our weapons over multiple monsters having scripted underwater segments of their hunt. But either way, I do think that section of the Lagiacrus fight simply existing is reason enough for Capcom to pursue the idea even further. I think there is a way to create seamless transitions into new maps with underwater sections, and additions onto the current maps with added explorable water. I mean, all you need is some catastrophic, or shall I say inclement weather events to sweep through the current maps, and oh no, a lot of the maps now have flooded sections. I mean, it would be an easy addition from both a world and game design perspective. Now, is the one scripted underwater section of one fight in Wilds reason enough to bring back complete underwater combat? It's not, but there is more to it. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, why do so many players not want underwater to come back? It's the controls. The bad controls, to be specific, which is completely understandable. As someone who recently got back into 3 Ultimate, controls in the water are easily the weakest aspect of it. However, what if Wilds already had the solution to that problem? Focus mode, which might let us move and stray freely underwater whenever we engage in it. Heck, you could even attach jets or aquatic scout flies onto the hunter if you need a lore reason behind how that would work. I don't think combat would feel as bad if that were the case. And even still, should hunters have total freedom of movement underwater? Hunters are people after all, not fish, which brings me to the next point. I do feel that outside of the top tier of endgame monsters, there weren't that many hunts that were intimidating in Wilds. If you introduce underwater combat though, then suddenly even a Royal Ludroth can be a bit of a challenge, and feel simply intimidating as a monster. Why is that? Well, naturally, we're in a domain that is much better traversed by these monsters. There should be a sense of a handicap as we try to fight monsters in their very habitat. This won't excuse bad controls, of course. Instead, even with totally fixed underwater controls, monsters should still move faster and more freely than we can as hunters. Now, if you've played 3 Ultimate, you probably remember the very first Lagiacrus that you ran, or swam into, underwater. It's actually a segment early on in the Village Low Rank quests. That Lagiacrus would generate some genuine suspense for the player, as it should, because we're on that monster's home turf. But the second that they get back on land, we can up our aggression again as hunters. Which, by the way, monsters that are underwater have deeper movesets that need to be learned by us players. And this just adds more room for the dance between hunter and monster, and adds some spice to the many hunts that we'll end up going on. Imagine hunting an abyssal Lagiacrus in a large underwater section of a map in Wilds. That sounds pretty dang Monster Hunter to me. Look at his gear too though, man, come on now. And speaking of which, the roster would be strong with underwater back in the mix. Now, obviously that means that more spots are taken by monsters that have some ability or logical placement in the water. Check this out though. Namiel, even though apparently they can't swim, Plesioth, Abyssal Lagiacrus, like I mentioned, Royal Ludroth, Golbal, Uthduna of course, and maybe an underwater Mizu variant. Oh, also, excuse me, Dire Morales? I haven't even fought this dude yet, and I can tell you that he's one of the few monsters that carry the very essence of this series.
Obligatory bring back Dalamadur.
Alright, listen, even if Capcom decide to keep underwater combat locked away forever, that's cool. Let's just get back to these games feeling like a game of predator catching prey, with a constant tug of war between hunter and monster exchanging those roles. In my last video, I ranked older Monster Hunter mechanics, and how well they would fit in the Wilds expansion. And underwater combat found itself in the B tier. After reading many comments that are in favor of the full return of underwater combat, I'm starting to change my tune. In fact, I'd probably change my rating and place aquatic gameplay in A tier for Wilds. I know not everyone would be a fan of underwater coming back, but even if you really disliked it, it's hard to deny the spirit and Monster Hunter feel that 3 Ultimate had. And through adding underwater combat back fully, I think Capcom can take some of that spirit and inject it back into Monster Hunter Wilds. The added depth to maps, the added personality given to monsters having unique traits on land and in water, different combos to learn underwater, and potentially new items and strategies given the chance to utilize this mechanic in a modern game. Although if we're being real, chances are we'll just get some new feature that no one could have predicted, and this video is just me yapping into the abyss. What if that abyss is underwater combat though? Alright, anyway, this was more of a quicker, less edited video just to put some thoughts out there. I could easily make other videos about other mechanics that could come back, but underwater is simply more unique in the fact that, well, it's literally already in the game. It is a shame that we didn't get any Monster Hunter news from the State of Play, but that just means Summer Game Fest this Friday will be an exciting watch. And on that note, thank you for watching this video. I've been struck by fluency, and you'll hear from me soon.